name is Teresita Blanco, the Artsy sister, and today we're continuing Saturnastra Woden. And this is chapter 12. Woden placed her index finger on my hand to make it drop to my knee, and shaking her head she said, "Leave the butterfly alone. You do not want to kill it and have it haunt you, and they are a very pretty creature as far as holding grudges are concerned." "I never heard of a person being haunted by the ghost of a bug," I said, incredulous. "It has been known to happen," said Woden, and she rattled her own noggin for a bit till she dug up this piece of information. "Long ago there was a painter who suffered from sacred sight, and he used to paint all sorts of things he saw. And one day he was in the garden with a friend, and he accidentally sat down and squashed a flea. And when his friend, who was a medium, started summoning ghosts, the flea appeared before the painter. And the scene was warped and enlarged by the power of his crush, and until the flea's soul was beautifully painted, he would drink the blood of the painter." "Oh yeah," I said. "I think I know who you mean." "Do you?" asked Woden. "I spent some time in London during the whole spiritualism movement," I said, remembering, "and I challenge you to find a bigger waste of time than that. The folks wanted to believe in something so much that they verily drove themselves mad. There was not a single person in the place that would suggest the genuine article. Some things cannot be helped, and if you off everyone who shows even the slightest pint of magic, you are bound to weed it out completely out of the gene pool," explained Woden, folding her arms. "How droll, and must you tackle magic in such a scientific fashion?" I said, yawning. "Both used to be one and the same back when that mattered, and both do build upon experimentation and observation," said Woden, trying very gently to pet the butterfly. And before she could touch it, it had flown away, and looking at it I asked, "When are we going to get any bees?" "Like honeybees." "I don't think there are any in this continent. They tend to muzzle out the local pollinators," explained Woden. "And don't you have an answer for everything?" I commented, chuckling. "Not everything, but between everyone we have covered pretty much everything," said Woden, smiling proudly. And by now the sun was starting to fall, and sunset usually came around 8 p.m. And at first it seemed like pretty late. Still, it made sense considering the 30-hour daily cycle of this world. And I went to the other room, and I kicked Ethel out of the hammock. And already used to such abuse, she languidly got up, and while she rubbed her eyes and yawned, and she stretched her limbs like a cat and sharpened her claws on the carpet before heading out. Outside I saw Woden looking in the direction of the forest, and she was waiting to see if Bryce would come. And with Ethel away, we started to head out. We had walked barely a few steps out of the house when we heard Bryce yelling, "Wait for me!" Our little party walked in silence for a few paces, and it fell upon Ethel to break the ice, so to speak. And looking at Bryce from head to toe, she said, "Aren't you a little overdressed?" "Well, it's a party, is it not?" said Bryce, blushing. "It is a forest party," I corrected, "and don't you have any peasant clothing?" "I don't regularly sneak out of the house to pretend to be poor like my brother Turpin. And I don't see the point in pretending to be something I'm not," said Bryce. "Good for you," said Woden, patting his head. "Stop treating me like a little kid," said Bryce, fixing his hair. "My behavior has not changed in the very least, which reminds me we should probably have secured the homestead," said Woden. "Don't worry, there is a half-of demon that keeps the place secure when I'm not around," said Ethel. "And what you call a demon is a Hatilcha, and not everything that isn't a god is a demon," explained Woden. "Hatilcha, demon, or whatever," started saying Ethel. And then she stopped and said, changing the subject, "Look, I can see the bonfire." "This reminds me, what can we expect of such festivity?" I asked, looking at Ethel. "I don't know, I never bothered to engage in one," said Ethel. "Why am I not surprised?" I retorted. And as we drew near, we started to hear music, and the only discernible instrument was the slightly out-of-key violin, the windpipes, the drums, and the flute. And around the fire danced a body of magical folks, and there was about 37 of them in the party, including the 4 members we had previously met. And the person playing the violin was Turpin, and when he saw Woden coming, he moved himself in a way that to have the instrument behind his face, and to draw attention to him, Woden said in a high-pitched voice, "Hi, Turpin!" "That isn't my name. You must have been mistaken for someone else," said Turpin, turning pale. "So this is where you go every weekend," said Bryce, frowning at his older brother. And the girls stopped dancing the moment they noticed the violins had stopped playing, and one of the indecently dressed maidens came over to speak with Bryce, and she frowned when she noticed that Bryce was standing there, and turning to look at Woden, she said, "No shooting allowed." "You did not mention this when you invited me," said Woden. I thought it was pretty obvious, said the lady, clad in a short-skirt toga and a belt tied around her waist. Let's just agree to disagree, shall we, said Woden, folding her arms. I can speak for myself. I am not a child since I hold a rank in the army, said Bryce proudly. The barbarian laws of city folk do not matter to us, and since ancient times any bride younger than 13 is considered a little kid. And come back when you grow up here, insisted the hag. I'm already 13 going on 14, so when I say I'm not a little kid, I mean it, said Bryce, holding strong despite being tough for his age. He was still as mature as ever. Oh, really, Mr. Man, if you are a man, then prove yourself to me, said the hag, coaxing the boy. And by now the other maidens were watching the scene with cool amusement. And Bryce took a step forward, and would have done something foolish indeed based on his frame of mind if his brother Turpin had not boxed his ear. And looking sternly at his brother, he said, You are not proving anything. Go home now. You are not my father, warned Turpin. And the other hags in the background said, Boo-hoo, is the baby gonna cry? And stepping between them, Woden said, Bryce is old enough to make his own decision, and nothing bad will happen to him while I'm here. This I promise. So you say, and yet nothing bad has ever happened to my family till you came along, retorted Turpin. That isn't fair, said Bryce, defending Woden. It's fine. There are some things that cannot be helped, and in this regard your brother speaks the truth. And lately bad things just seem to happen wherever I'm around, and I don't even know why I bothered to answer this summons to begin with, said Woden sadly. The others of the hags, an elven maiden 64 years of age, came forth and said, Maybe you are cursed. And the blonde maiden spun around Woden, and trembling a little, she said, I see a dark cloud hanging over you, and you carry a terrible curse upon your shoulders. Tell me something I don't know, said Woden dryly, and then turning to Turpin, she added, This personal curse only affects me. And reaching into her pocket, the elf witch brought out a sage, and she made a motion to burn it in the fire to remove Woden's curse. Woden took her hand and she shook her head, and then she said, This type of curse is one that cannot be lifted. And don't worry about it. It isn't the type of thing that can harm me physically, nor does it cause bad, nor does it cause bad things to occur around it. And there is such a thing as being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So what now? Asked another hag. If Turpin would not mind returning to his music, then the party may continue, said Woden, handing Turpin his bow and violin. Turpin looked at his younger brother and thought a moment, and Turpin shivered a little, remembering the day before, and he then decided to return to his post to play his music, and when Turpin sent out, Bryce breathed a sigh of relief. And while his brother was there, it was not likely that Bryce would speak with me, and Turpin plucking the strings of his violin a bit, setting the beat for the next musical piece. And I remember one time Woden told me that this place was called Pizzicato, and something about it reminded me of the song, and I had heard it a long time ago, and I could not put my finger on it. And when looking at Woden, she said to me, It reminds you of the third act of Sylvia by Leo Deviles. Oh yes, I said, looking up. That ballet was with the name. Seems fitting if you ask me. And one of the maidens came up to Woden and taking her hand and bowing asked, Shall we dance? Sure, I haven't anything else better to do in my time on this world, said Woden, going with her. And the way the girls danced around the fire did not have any structure, and even the music itself seemed somewhat improvised. And Bryce made a motion to sit down when he too was summoned to join the dance circle. And of the group of 37, 23 were maiden, and only the youngest 13 of them were engaged in this play. And the others were with the men conversing, drinking, and a couple were engaged in a serious business. And after 4 songs, Bryce's belly began to rumble, and sensing that Bryce was hungry, Woden stopped her dancing and said, I'm starved. Where's the food? The other maiden said, I'm going to get started on it. And I'm going to help you with that. I'm a picky eater, said Woden. Do as you will, said the other maiden, and looking at Woden, she asked, And what is your name again? Woden. We have not been formally introduced, said Woden, shaking her hand. The name is Myron, by the way, said Mai. Last name Ron. So Mai, why did your girls want to meet me? Asked Woden, who could not read the mind of this particular magic user. You are a new neighbor, so think of it like your welcome party or something like it, said Mai, and she added, What I would prefer if you would call me by my full name. You no longer have family ties, so why bother holding out to your last name? Asked Woden. It is none of your business, girl, and we are not at a first-term basis, so please do make the effort to show a little respect to your elders, said Mai, frowning. The front of this oven maiden only helped to give her a cuter, more baby face look, and she had one of those pure, angelic face, the type that cannot look angry without resembling a toddler having a tantrum. The oven maiden brought out a large pot and placed it over the second fire, and soon the water started boiling. And to help Bryce tame his hunger for a bit, Woden handed him a piece of bread, which he ate with eagerness. And handing Woden a ladle, the oven maiden said, "All you have to do is turn the counter while I add the ingredients. Can you do that much?" "Sure, but I want to add my own ingredients," said Woden sadly. "We do not know you enough to trust you with the food that we will eat. So for now, content yourself with turning the cauldron and know that you are being watched," said Maya flatly. "As are we all," retorted Woden, turning to look at me. And Maya looked in my direction and only saw Ethel, and her long red-pink flurry hair was moving energetically, and the tail was as long as her leg, with a pink line running down the middle. And I always found it amusing when these New Age demons had tails, and this was one way to tell the difference between true demons and creatures that have become demonic. Practically any creature could become a demon given enough time, though the mechanism behind it has not warranted much study. While Woden was about turning the cauldron, she said, "Double, double, toil trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubbles." Maya rolled her eyes and started adding ingredients, and when she added the carrots, Woden embellished by saying, "Carrots stolen from the moon body." And following Maya added onions, and Woden then said, "Well, onions soon to become extinct." And when Maya commented on Woden's attentive levity by saying, "Extinct doesn't rhyme with bunny." "It doesn't have to rhyme to be funny," explained Woden, pouting. "Well, I don't get what jokes this is supposed to be, but we are making food, not potions, and even if we were making a potion, we will certainly not sing about it, for such process require all our concentration," said Maya, chastising Woden. As to the chastisement, Woden did not say anything aloud when Maya added the celery, the green pepper, and the garlic, and after stirring for 5 minutes, Maya said, "Now go sit down, girl, and I do not need you anymore." Woden passed behind her and returned to sit by Bryce, who was regretting not eating a snack before going, and he was used to eating dinner early, and he noticed Woden's somber expression, and he asked, "What's the matter?" "Oh, no, nothing at all," said Woden, drawing her legs close to her chest, and then she folded her arms and she rested her chin on top of them. "Come on, you can tell me," insisted Bryce. "I thought that this scene was going to be a cool magical, but everything they do is so mundane and boring, and I wanted to do some play magic, but Maya did not feel like indulging me," explained Woden. "In Maya's defense, you should not be playing with people's food," I retorted. And pretending that I had not said anything, Bryce said, "Well, you just met these people, and magic users are known to be secretive and suspicious of outsiders." "I can't see why. All this secrecy only helps in destroying all the magical knowledge that they have gathered throughout generations. Manipulation of knowledge doesn't do anyone any service," said Woden sternly. And Bryce was silent for some seconds, and taking it to heart, he said, "Well, you cannot expect everyone to easily understand things, and any dangerous information in the hands of fools can be quite destructive. If people do not show signs of intelligence, offering them education of any type is a waste of time and resources." "So I am a fool, then?" asked Woden, narrowing her eyes. "No, you are not," said Bryce, trying to appease Woden. "Ah, so what you're implying is that these people think I am a fool," said Woden. "In more ways than one," said Turpin, sitting down beside Woden, and Ethel had relieved him, since she was itching to tackle the fiddle. "You are not helping," snapped Bryce. "And I don't need your help or your approval, and I know what I am and what you are, and let's just leave it at that," said Woden, getting up to dance by the flames. And she took my hand, and we danced to the tune that only Woden was listening to, and it was pretty annoying when she did that, but I had grown accustomed to just grinning and bearing with it. And the other witches and the only male magic user in the party could not perceive me, and there was something familiar about him, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And it usually took me a bit of time to put names on people's faces, and it was even harder when remembering a guy's face. And I was never that interested in dudes. And look, there's another familiar face. It's another dude and another fellow. And I wonder if they were invited to the party. And I doubt by the looks of the maidens who have stopped their dancing, and only one seems completely oblivious of their presence. And looking at Mai, one of the newcomers said, "You are coming with us." "Why?" asked Mai. "You are under arrest," said the dude, taking Mai by the shoulder. And sensing her gathering magic, he added, "We have orders to kill you if you resist, and there are arrows aimed at you, and you will be dead before you even have the chance to cast a single spell." One stopping said, "Are you willing to die over something so petty?" "You're coming with us too," said a different fellow. "It's too early for there to be an arrest warrant for me," said Woden, folding her arms. Enough talk, let's go, said the man coming to stand beside Woden. And Woden started to take a few steps with the fellow, and none of the witches seemed inclined to protest or even make an attempt at a resistance. I was doubtful as to why, and normally magic users would be a bit more outlaws, and it seemed like the local magic users were born without a spine. And then again, not everyone is eager to donate a body to stand against injustice or whatever. Though there are just as pointless ruminations on my part, and stopping a little Woden said, "Are you just going to stand there while they arrest me?" The witches in response started to pack up, and Turpin silently watched the scene while Bryce looked somewhat conflicted, and he stood up and made a motion to intervene when Turpin pulled his arm and whispered, "Do you want to get arrested as well?" And pushing his brother aside, Bryce came forward and asked, "And what are these ladies accused of?" "Go home, boys," said the guard, ignoring Bryce's question, and based on the armors, they were not locals. And the men started walking, and Bryce continued to inconspicuously follow after them, and once they reached a clearing in the forest, Bryce noted that they were heading out of town, and turning around, the man that seemed to be the leader asked Bryce, "And what are these women to you that you should continue to pester us?" "I care not for the blonde elves, but the raven hair one saved my father's life, and I am duty bound to her till my debt is repaid," explained Bryce. "How sweet," said the leader petting Bryce, and he added, "Witches are crafty, for you know your old man was made sick so that the witch could then sell you a remedy." "It has been known to happen," said Woden, nodding. "Whose side are you on?" asked Maya, annoyed. And one of the guards smacked Maya on the back of the head before saying, "Quiet, you." Again Bryce insisted, "Tell me, what are their charges?" "The first is guilty of necromancy, and the latter had her fire demon burn the forest down," explained the leader. "Who is the officer that issued the bounty?" asked Bryce. "Enough, boy, go home," said the leader. "None of it makes sense," said Bryce more to himself, and for you to do necromancy, you need a body, and there are no bodies in a known VR, for we practice cremation. And as for the fire, why single out Woden by the looks and not by name?" It was then when Bryce was smacked in the head, and dumb kid, his limp body was placed over a pack mule, and he too was going to get killed, hopefully. And Woden and Bayl was both bound by shackles that apparently support his magic. And such items are quite common, and I have seen enough variations on them, and these ones were via a blessing, and it kept the weaker from gathering magic, and this was not an issue for Woden since she naturally had a large mana pool. And for what Woden had explained to me, most mages do not have a mana pool, and magic is gathered from their surroundings or through a catalyst and then used up, and in a sense they were more like lightning rods than generators, and Woden's magic had independent origination, and she could be in one of those places devoted magic and still be able to cast. And the downside to this was magic fatigue, and this does not apply to water, she being made of sterner stuff, and it all depends on the shape and vessel, and some may just be more like cups, while others are more like balloons. And I have seen a couple that be more like rubber bands. When they snap, it's quite messy. And I was snapped from my ruminations by Ethel, who asked, "Aren't you going to do something?" It's fine. Woden is a big girl. She can take care of herself. She just wants to see how it all plays out," I explained. Woden, who was feeling bored, said, "Are we there yet?" "We're almost there," said the leader. And the girls were brought to a strange mound, and it had a monolithic structure arranged in a circle. And waiting there was a strange man clad in black, and man recognizing the fellow said, "What is this about? I have done nothing to deserve such treacherous behavior." "Indeed you have done nothing, for this you must be punished," said the fellow, and he added, seeing man's face of disgust, "Oh, it won't be nothing sorted. Once I am done, you will be free to return to your normal life, so to speak." And after saying this, the girls were sat on the stone altar, and a circle of fire was lighted around them. But the fire was not near enough or even to bother them at the very least, and the men started speaking words of magic while the soldiers started to recite a prayer, and one kneeling and bowing. And some nice bacon and meats were burned on the fire, and the smell eventually attracted an interesting-looking snake. And snake calls have always been pretty cookie rituals, and the snake bounded itself around Woden and bit down into her soul to take her latent magical talent, and the snake, instead of taking Woden's magical nature, it dislodged a piece of the rose. And since this had a bit of magic, the snake thought it had succeeded. And it did help that Woden stopped generating magic, and the thing came and offered the magic fragment to the summoner. And it took the form of a flower which he swallowed, and since the piece of the rose was stolen, it naturally did what it always did when it was taken away. The piece of the rose assumed its original form and quickly hardened to form a blade in the pit of the stomach, and the goddess, noticing the caster coughing up blood, quickly came to cure him and extract the source of the malady, and it was peeled out in the form of a knife. And shaking her head sadly, Woden said, "You are not going to take my talent away so easily. Either you cooperate or we kill the boy," said the mage, pointing at Bryce. "You are welcome to try, but he's a tough nut to crack," explained one Woden. And by now Eto had untied Bryce and had given him a gentle kick to the ribs to wake him up. And remembering the situation, Bryce brought out a revolver and emptied it out on the fellow that had knocked him out. And the sound of the bullets caused the mules to throw him off. And he would have gotten kicked in the face had Bryce not moved away. And this was interesting turn of events. Reloading his gun, Bryce said to the fellow, "Now you are under arrest." "And get a load on the pier," so the little brat, commented the captain, coming to stand unimpressed by Bryce's small toy. And looking at the whole reading course, he asked, "Are you a wizard too?" "No, just a brat," I answered for Bryce, and who shook his fist in my direction. And Bryce then said, "I am a lord, and all those deemed trustworthy enough to be given weapons like these want to protect themselves from the tyranny of the majority." And shaking loose from her binds, Woden said, "Look, there's no need to be so uncivilized. From what I gather, the dude that is no longer here hired you for some shady business." And indeed, just as Woden had pointed out, the mage had evaporated at the sound of Bryce's gun, and not want to dwell on past mistakes, the mercenary said, "This is the last time we do a job for a wizard." "He isn't a wizard, for there is only one true wizard, and the rest are just approximations," said Woden, removing the shackles from mine. And rattling them around, Woden looked up at the sky, and she started signaling at a creature that lived on top of the Titan moon. And once Woden had his attention, she gestured at the same chains, and a little more of a boy in white robes appeared from behind a column, and he took the chains and he started shooing at them with small teeth, and then he disappeared from the same direction he had come. And Bryce started looking in the direction of the weird kid and said, "Friend of yours?" "Brother," said Woden flatly. "Ah, good for you," said Bryce. And mine was silent throughout these proceedings, and I could not get a proper read on her thoughts, she being magical as all, and still her emotion were a mix of frustration and disappointment. And as for Woden, she was staring at the dead body, and shaking her head sadly, she said, "Ah, what a pity." And she then took out a duster she called Gabrata and placed it on top of the head of the dead guy, and his breast cut, and he started coughing, and using the lining of the weapon, she gingerly magnetized the bullets out of the fellow, and this created new holes that required attention, and again she whipped the man with the delicate hairs of her feather duster, where he slowly started to whine and scream in agony, and then eventually the scream subsided, and he sat up and he breathed more easily. And feeling his eyes and the damp shirt beneath his armor, he said, "I know I don't deserve it, but thank you for your mercy. There's no need to send me," Woden added, pointing to her duster. "If it was for me, I would have let you bleed to death, but Gabrata will never let me hear the end of it." Bowing to the feather duster, he said, "And thank you, whatever you are. Go in peace and do not sin again," said Woden. The stranger shook Woden's hand and said, "Thank you." Alright, so let's leave it here. Bye-bye and God bless.